Hello everybody, this is Magda Giurcanu from National Louis University, and together with Joe Rice, we are organizing a series of interviews with public officials and community organizers to explore civic initiatives in the Chicago area. We are the Growing Democracy Group, an interdisciplinary effort committed to youth engagement. We hope you enjoy our episodes. I'm pleased to have here with me today David Boykin from the 6th District Police Council. David is a public official and an artist, and he decided to join us and share some of his experience on both sides, music, composer, and working for the community. David, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with a question that perhaps our listeners would like to understand more of, which is, what is a District Police Council member?
District Council's public entity government body was created through the ECPS ordinance. ECPS ordinance empowering for communities for public safety. The ordinance that was passed a couple of years ago during the Lightfoot administration in response to a lot of the protests in the streets, response to a lot of police killings. Adam Toledo, Rakia Boyd, and other people cry for the people for more accountability. And through the work, this mass movement, several different organizations came together to form a coalition, and they fought and drafted this ordinance, the ECPS ordinance, and they got the support of many aldermen and got it passed. The ordinance, the effort is to give more community control of the police to the local communities. And to do this, they created the CCPSA, Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, which is a 7-member body with 2 people appointed from the north side, 2 people appointed from the south side, 2 people appointed from the west side, 7th member appointed to help oversee police policies and procedures, and to also help select the police superintendent. Previously, the superintendent is appointed by the mayor, but now as a result of this ordinance, the CCPSA does a search for the superintendent, and they interview people, and then they send the mayor 3 names from which the mayor chooses. They have the power to help the police set their annual plans, and they do the same for the police board. Police board is when the police are found to be accused of doing something wrong, they go before the police board. The police board decides whether the police officer is guilty of doing whatever they said they did or not guilty. So whenever there's a complaint with the police, they file that complaint with COPA, and COPA investigates. And then the police board does judicial kind of stuff. And so the CCPSA, they also help set annual goals with COPA. So with all these agencies with respect to accountability, with the police itself, with COPA, and with the police board, they have the power to help them set their annual policies. Like they have to sit down, COPA and the police board and superintendent of the police and the CCPSA, and come to an agreement on their annual plans and stuff. Those are the basic powers that they have right now. And so through this ordinance, they created that body to do that work, give this greater level of accountability and transparency to what's going on. And then, because there's only 7 of them to oversee the whole city, they said, well, in each of the police districts, there's 22 of them across the city, in each of the police districts, we'll set up a local district council. And there'll be 3 people that are elected to that council by public election. And that's what the district council is. It's supposed to kind of be like the eyes and the ears of the CCPSA in each police district. And the CCPSA, those commissioners were appointed by the mayor initially, and now they're nominated by the district council. The district council vets, puts out a call and applications and resumes and interviews people, and then they send 3 names to the mayor to fill the vacancies on the council. They have a strange structure where the commission, some of them have 4-year terms and some of them have 2-year terms, so they're not all up to be renewed at the same time. And as I said, there's a nominating committee that's made up of people from the district council, maybe 1 member from each council sits on a nominating committee, and they choose who's going to be nominated for the commission. And the district council members, they each serve 4-year term. We're in the 2nd year of the first term.
Thank you for that detailed perspective of the local administration, efforts to implement more accountability towards police. Yet, when we talk to our students, there is this very strong sense of a lack of accountability towards police, especially here in Chicago. And this perspective doesn't seem to have changed in the last 2 years, at least since we have had these history classes. And I was just wondering, why do you think think that perception is there based on your conversations in the councils?
In my own district, I live in the 6th district. I've been doing this like a year and a half or so. We've been having meetings. Most of the people who come to the meetings are poorly attended. Initially, I didn't think they were poorly attended, but upon reflection, I think they're poorly attended. It started out, it would be roughly like 30 people at the meeting, then it's dwindled down to about like 20 people after about a year. And now we might be under 20 people like at every meeting.
Is it the same people or do they
It's a lot of the same people. We had a member of our council resign after about 7 or 8 months, just got his position replaced. Somebody just came on literally a week ago. That may have affected our efforts in terms of recruiting and marketing and getting more people like out to the meetings. But I feel that the people who come to the meetings, it's the same people. It's a small number of people. They are very informed. A lot of them are active with the beat meetings, or what they used to call CAPS, now it's called community policing, where they have beat meetings in each district, or they meet with the community once a month, to talk to them, tell them what's going on in terms of crime in the community and what they're doing to solve them and stuff in that particular beat. Because within a district, there may be like, 7 or 8 beats. It's divided up into about 7 or 8 beats. And so most of the people who come to the meeting are the same people who go to the beat meetings, who go to their block club meetings. These people are already actively engaged.
What age group?
I would guess the average age might be my age or higher. Like they might be like at 50, 60. And I think a lot of them are property owners. A lot of the concerns that are expressed during the meeting are with regard to property crimes, quality of life issues, like shut this music down over here, there's parties going on, and there's a vacant lot, vacant houses that may squatters in them or something, or people using drugs in the place, loitering on particular street corners, loitering outside the liquor store. These are the types of things that come up in the meeting. Is there a conversation about police accountability and holding police accountable? In the time that I've been in this position, there was an incident where a young man died as a result of his encounter with the police. The video came out in June. The incident may have happened in March, where a woman called the police and said that her father or child, like she's going to pick up the child, and he's fighting her, and that he struck her with a pistol. And the police are called out. And so the police come out, they find her, they don't see him, and she tells them he went this way, I went up that alley. Police go up that alley and they chase him. They say that he had a gun, and he threw a gun on the roof somewhere, and that he's running away from the officer, and that he abruptly stops, and the officer bumps into him, and he falls. And when he falls, he hits his head and is unconscious for a moment. The officer is able to revive him and call the paramedics, and they take him to the hospital. 2 weeks later, he dies as a result of these injuries. This incident was never discussed at a meeting, it was never brought up at a meeting. When it happened, like it happened in March, I didn't know about it. I didn't find out about it until I saw a newspaper article like in June, because COPA, the investigative agency, was investigating and had released a statement because there's a period of time by which they are mandated to release video recordings. And so it was time that they had to release this video recording. And so because they concerned about, the public response, they notified, and okay, we're about to release this recording. So that was how I found out about it.
In what district?
This is in the 6th district.
In the 6th, yeah.
This is in the 6th district on the south side of the city. Chatham, Auburn, Gresham, Greater Grand Crossing, these are neighborhoods. That's not something that was talked about at a meeting. I brought it up, but it was not something that people were concerned about. A year before that or so, an incident where an off-duty police officer was visiting a friend at an elementary school. This is in the morning when it's time for students to come into school. That works there, this friend is a worker at the school. He's seen on a video striking a child in the throat. He's been prosecuted by the state's attorney. But in terms of accountability, these things aren't talked about much.
What would the public that you are working with, what do they want to see from the police?
There's a charter school in the district. Last summer, there was one young man from this charter school who was found burned and shot in the trunk of a car on another side of the city. There was some other students from this charter school who were found in an alley shot. And prior to them being found in this alley shot, there was a 911 call that there was some young people trying to steal cars. And then there's a shot spotter alert right after this 911 call. And then the police go out and they found these 2 young men. There's no discussion about what happened. People just talk, and there's a narrative that they were trying to steal a car and somebody shot them. But the people who come to the meeting, what they want is the police to respond when they call them. They want the police to get these people off the corner. These people that are hanging out, that are drinking, that are selling drugs, they want that stopped.
The way I see the position of a middleman, right, between the public and the police. Like if we change the conversation towards the police, what do you hear from that side?
I mean, I can't speak for the police, and I don't want to speak for the police. But in these meetings, police come to all the meetings.
Okay.
Most of them. They come to most of the meetings. Many of our meetings, the commander, the district commander, the head of the district, he's there at a lot of the meetings. When he's not there, there's a sergeant. So there's usually police presence, like at the meeting. And so oftentimes they can speak directly to the concerns. And I think that the people at the meeting expressed that they oftentimes are satisfied, I think, with the police response. And so the people are frustrated because if the police, come out and they clear a corner or something, and then the people come back, what can they do? That's the narrative is like, well, we clear them out, but we haven't found the crime and evidence to stop them from just doing what they're doing. It's going to be interesting now that we have a new state's attorney. The former state's attorney, Kim Foxx, decided not to run again. Now we have Eileen Burke will be the new state's attorney. And there was a narrative that Kim Foxx and the state's attorney's office under Kim Foxx was, soft on crime and did not prosecute a lot of cases. We had this prosecutor from the state's attorney's office come speak at one of the meetings, and Cook County State's Attorney's Office send us a monthly report of all the arrests in our district. And it also has some information about the citywide. They send it out monthly. There's a quarterly report, and I think there's an annual report. And he came out and he was going over one of those reports. The most stark, jarring thing was to see hundreds of people, like every month, being prosecuted in our district. There's other districts, on the north side, and some on the south side where police live, further west, where there may be like 17 every month. But the sentiment during this presentation, he seems very, rather nervous. I understood why he was, because sentiment is that state's attorney's office, there's a narrative, and the sentiment is that the state's attorney's office is soft on crime and they're not prosecuting enough people. They're letting people off too much. I think that they think that they can police their way out of the crime in their community.
You just mentioned, right, Chicago is a very diverse city, and depending on geography matters in the city, right? So some areas just would need more resources than others. So would you argue that this layout of 3 equal representation across all these 22 makes sense in terms of connecting to the public and trying to understand?
Oh, I think that makes sense. You said resources, and I don't know what kind of resources you're talking about, but if we talk about economic resources, if economic resources were equitably distributed, most research suggests that crime decreases. I don't want to say more investment on the south side. That's another tricky thing too. We could talk about more investment on the south side, and the previous mayor had this program, Invest Southwest, to invest millions of dollars into the south side and west side. The program does things like, if I want to open up a restaurant, it would give me $250,000 to renovate this existing structure to outfit it as a restaurant. So this building that is not owned by myself, that is not owned by somebody in the community, gets a $250,000 investment, refurbishment. I may actually open up the restaurant. It may stay open for a year or two, then it may close, and the owner of this building has gotten $250,000 work done on this building. It in no way has improved situation in the community, but for that landowner, for that property owner, it increases his property value. But it hasn't actually invested in the community. I mean, it's invested in property and the property value in the community, but it hasn't invested in changing the lives of the people, changing the quality of life of the people, changing the income of the people. When we say investment, these broad terms, that they throw around, it sounds like it's going to be a good thing, but it's still not actually investing in the people that's in the community. As opposed to something, if they talk about a guaranteed income program, I mean, that's something that actually giving money directly to people, that's different.
Would you argue that these district councils, though, are sort of an investment in the community? Or is that a stretch? To think like that.
It's a stretch to think like that because of the small amount of the budget season, and they're talking about the budget and the police budget, and I think the police budget, as far as the city budget, is like over half of the city's budget or something. It's the biggest part of the city budget, not education. A group of the police districts on the north side had a town hall meeting to talk about the budget. One of the speakers was from the Better Government Association. They were giving a presentation when it came to the CCPSA that is so minuscule, it's not even worth discussion in his presentation. Yeah, I don't know if I consider it an investment.
You went through elections though, right? It was
Yeah.
your position, 2023, you went through elections. How did you make people vote for you?
I found out about it through the ECPS ordinance. As I said, it was like a coalition of organizations that organized and fought for it. Those organizations also did some outreach and training to get people to run for the positions. And I saw their advertisements for that. And so I went to some meetings to find out more about it. They advised and helped people, who wanted to run on like how to go about it, how to do it.
How would you campaign, right? It's a new
Yeah.
position. It's
Yeah.
hard for people to understand what it's
Yeah.
there for.
I didn't promise anything. I just told people what it is.
So you need to collect signatures and then
You had to collect so many signatures and get on the ballot.
on the ballot, what would people see?
In my district, and that's why I ran, because I went to the informational meetings, and then at the end of the meeting, they were asking, like, okay, is anybody interested in running? And I wasn't interested in running, but then they said it was getting close to the time for stuff to happen, and they said nobody's running in 6th district, and that's my district. And they fear that the police will put people in these positions and just control it, and then you have the same situation. Here it is, you have this other body that's supposed to help hold police accountable, but the police are ultimately holding themselves accountable. So I decided to go ahead and do it for that reason. So there's supposed to be 3 people. That was myself, and then another person came aboard, Eric Russell. There were 2 of us. And then the last person, Aisha Humphrey, she came in too late to be on the ballot, so she was a write-in candidate. But because there was only 3, there was no competition, as opposed to some other districts where there may have been like 7 or 8 people. Right? It's different in each district.
Did you need a percentage of votes?
It would be the top 3 out of how many running in the district. The top 3 vote getters would fill the positions.
Was turnout in any way influencing? Like if not too many people show up, you were still top 3, you would still get it? Or was there requirement?
Right, didn't require a certain number.
You said 4 years. What do you think is happening in the next 2 years?
Continuing to work to try to get more people interested and to talk about it more.
How many hours would you say you have to dedicate?
When they created the position, they estimated, they said roughly 25 hours a month, and I would guess that that's fair. The community meetings that we host once a month, they're an hour and a half or so.
Do you knock on doors to ask people to come to these meetings?
We haven't done that much. I myself have flyered, but not so much like knocking on doors and talking to people, but I have like flyered. And again, when we were down to just 2 people, that made it a little more difficult, but now we're back up to quote unquote full strength.
Do you also meet with all the members?
There's quarterly meetings with people from all of the district councils. There's annual meeting. There's sub-work groups among the district councils, like there's the nominating committee. I've been other work groups developed to deal with different issues like accountability and police relations, to different meetings all the time.
In your opinion, again, looking at the successes or the way you connect to the public, do you think this model will last?
Yeah, I think it'll last. Like I said, in turnout, there hasn't been, I would like to see more people. I think everybody would like to see more people like in the meetings. But at the same time, I feel like the people want it. They voted for it. The aldermen did, as representing other people. We're on the ballot, people voted. There's a referendum being put forth in the city council to give more power to the commission and to make the commissioners elected versus being appointed, to have them directly elected by the people in the same way that the district councils are direct, and to give them the power over police budget, to give them the power to hire and fire the superintendent. Right now they're involved in the hiring of the superintendent, but they can't fire the police superintendent. And there's some other powers as well in this referendum. And they're trying to get it on the ballot for elections next year. And I think that will help. I think this is not something that's going to go away because the problem is so persistent. The problem of police accountability and the problem of police killing civilians with impunity. These problems don't go away. Every month, every city hall meeting, the city's announcing millions of dollars that they're paying to the family members of some citizen that the police killed. It's not going away.
If you were to reform the system a bit, what reforms do you think would be needed?
The number one thing that I see, there's a big fight recently with the police and the city and the mayor around the issue of arbitration. When the police are accused of committing some egregious act that required them to be disciplined by being suspended of a year or more, these cases were to be heard by the police board. If it was something less egregious than that, they had the option of going to arbitration. They argued that as a union and the state of Illinois law, and the rights that it affords to unions, their members should have the right to arbitration for everything all the time. And they effectively won that case. Initially, the mayor was fighting it, and he lost. Well, I don't think they actually went to court, but argued about it, and they lost. And the issue with that is that it's an issue of transparency, because when cases go to arbiter, the information is sealed, not public accessible records. And the arbiters themselves, they can choose lawyers to be the arbiters that may already be working with the police union. Bias. This points out the problem that the police fraternal organizations are not unions and should not be treated the same as unions. Police are not workers. They are armed agents of the state. They should be not looked at as the same as workers. Or fraternal organizations should be allowed to, if anything, in terms of negotiating, there should be negotiation in terms of maybe their pay and the conditions of their work. They should not be able to negotiate on policies and procedures and how they are to be held accountable. These things shouldn't be negotiated upon. The power of the police union is the big problem. The political power that they have, that's the big problem. And that's what needs to be checked by decertifying their fraternal organizations as unions. They should not be unions. They should be something else. That's what needs to happen.
Do these conversations come in your monthly meetings with the public, or is it something that they're not looking at nor thinking about?
This is just my first opinion thought. But this is, as I said, that this problem was exemplified, played out by the situation that just happened with the arbitration.
Looking back at the last 2 years, right, that you had this position for, what would you say your priorities were when you started, and how have those changed or evolved over time?
I was hesitant. I was reluctant going into it. I was a little naive going into it, just not involved in politics, and now seeing the way that people do politics, the way people say one thing and do something else. It's just real. It's like you don't know how real something is till you really get up close. You don't experience the real power of the police and the real fear that people have of the police. It's very big.
These monthly conversations, they have helped to alleviate a bit of that fear.
No, when I'm campaigning and I'm knocking on doors and I say, hey, I'm running for police, they close the door. You knock another door. Say, hey, they talk to you, they engage you. My father's police, my uncle's police, my brother's police, my grandfather was police. I'm retired police. So you have these people who shut the door as soon as they hear the word police, who turn the other way, go the other way. And then you have some people engaged. They're like, oh, I am the police. Or, I work with the police. Those are the people who are at the meeting. The other people who close the door, they never come in. They don't come near the meeting. When I first got hired, you asked about the change in mindset. Because I first get hired, first sign up for this, and you get inaugurated. Inauguration day, you're up on stage, and then you get an email. And the email says, hey, this is from the administration. We was in a meeting with the police the other day, and we thought it'd be a good idea if they came to all your meetings. Previously I was thinking of this as like these meetings would be a place where people who maybe felt they had a complaint, they could come talk about it. But I get this email the next day after I'm sworn in that we decided that the police should be at all your meetings, and we asking them to come to all your meetings. So the police have been asked to come to all the meetings. A lot of people don't want to come to the meeting. The police are there at the meeting. How do you come to complain about somebody? You're accusing them of doing something wrong to you.
I understand, and that's why I had my initial thought that you are the in-between person and not that the police is actually there in your meetings.
I am supposed to be an in-between person, and yes, they put the police right there in the meeting. Completely, I think, destroys the trust. The closest thing to accountability we've had discussed at the meeting was a resident expressed disappointment with the way that a police officer was communicating to her. She was complaining about something that had to do with some actions of the migrants in the community. Her complaint was that the police officer told her, if you got a problem with migrants, you should move. And when after she made that complaint, another resident mentioned in an email thread that, yeah, she too has heard this officer make remarks that were disrespectful to residents. And the commander, he was in the meeting, and he took note. He said, yeah, I know who that is. I know who you're talking about. He didn't say he was going to do this. He didn't say he was going to do that. He acknowledged it, that he's aware of it. One of my co-counselors was starting a conversation with those residents about that issue. One process is that, a citizen files a complaint with COPA to look into it, to investigate if they consider that action worth investigation and worth being reprimanded in some kind of way.
Would that fall under your responsibility to teach citizens how to act when they're upset about incidents with the police? Or to have a stronger voice, because apparently there is a legal way of doing things out there, we just were not aware of it.
Yeah, I communicated that, but I don't know if they did that. I don't know if they interested in doing that. They were able to actually speak directly to the commander. At the next meeting, I get to the meeting, there's 2 migrant workers, and there's an officer from the mayor's office. It's a new office to help migrants. Officer from the mayor's office is there with these 2 migrants to talk to the community.
And are the migrants talking? I'm assuming they're international, right, or no?
They both were from Venezuela. They engaged. They didn't speak. They spoke a little English, enough, and they understood English. And the persons from the mayor's office translated. But what I'm saying is that, like, here we had a citizen complain about migrants. And then at the next meeting, the commander invites an officer from the mayor's office, and she brings migrants. I guess this is his way of trying to get residents in the community who's lived there for a long time and these new migrant immigrants to understand each other better. No. It's not a happy moment. And the reason it's not a happy moment is because of the power of the police. Forget about the police. If I come in here, you invite me here to this meeting, I'm not wearing a gun. Had I had a rifle strapped over my shoulder when I walked in, that changes this whole conversation. And I'm just saying, there's a power dynamic that's unspoken. Because I got this rifle, every conversation I have with somebody that doesn't have a rifle is going to go well. I won't have bad conversations. It's most of the time. High probability that all the conversations will go well, will appear to go well, at least. But what I'm saying is that, like, here we had a meeting, citizens expressed direct to the commander, we have this problem with this officer. The commander did not address that directly. He brought up something else, took over. The commander didn't write me and say, I want to bring these people to the meeting and have this, discuss it. He did not write me about that. I was completely ambushed. I didn't tell him that, and maybe I should, but I'm affected by the police coming to my meeting, every meeting with guns, and I'm affected by that as well. I like to think I'm brave. I like to think I'm courageous. But I didn't go to the commander and say, hey, you can't just come here and take over my meeting. I understand why you're doing this, but you got to talk to me first.
And do you think that, this dynamic that you're describing in District 6, is it the South and the West? And is it different on the North side? Again, you met with people, right? And you talk about these issues and you share concerns. And what do you think is the overall perception of council members?
I don't know. I know that there's one district on the North side, very low crime. And because there's very low crime, nobody comes to the meetings. And the district councilor wants people to come to the meetings and engage. They're frustrated.
And does she have police coming to her meetings as well?
I assume that they do, but I don't know. I think it varies. I've been to another meeting in a nearby district. Police weren't at that meeting that I went to.
I think the institution is so new that norms are established, and if the norms are not challenged, they're going to become formalized.
I think it's different. I think some districts, police are more actively involved, in others they're not at all.
Yeah, that's interesting, the different way of reacting across the city to this new local eyes, right? Local eyes on police.
My goal, I think, to focus on, the next election cycle, 2027, and prepare some people to step in and do this work.
Thank you for your work for that district and for your work with us here. I do hope it's going to help our students think a bit more, about their own responsibility.
Yeah, I hope so too, and I hope some of them consider doing it. Because then I want to say, for anybody interested in community organizing to make change, at the local level, it's very doable. You can do it. If you have a dream of trying to take over some civic body, trying to take control of, the civic processes in your community, this is one way that you can actually do it. You can actually go out and campaign and run and win because it's new. You can do it. You can win. You can do it. You can run for this office. You can do it. This is low bar. You don't have to have a college degree or have a bunch of experience.
You just have to live in that area, right?
You just have to live in that district.
Thank you for listening. This is the Growing Democracy team at National Louis University. Stay tuned for more episodes.